The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, Ori? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Viewers Discretion. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope your weekend has been going chef's kiss. Awesome, amazingly well, swimmingly. Hope everything has been going right in your life. It's time for that to happen, right? It's about, look, at the very least, either it is or you're due. So you have to look at it's always glass is not just half full. Glass is half full, and it looks like rain, and water is going to just fall on in. So there you go. It's the best way to look at life. Anyhow, there's a couple of things I want to share with y'all. A couple things before I get into Fani Willis. I got a lot of Fani Willis talk tonight. I hope you're not tired of her. I hope you're not tired of her. There's a couple of things I wanted to share with you of just things that people have shared with me or I've stumbled on that I'm like, yeah, I gotta share this with my audience. I've got to share this with my audience. And this is people like this, they're white pill for me. And I think it's good to seek out white pills. I think it's good to seek out white pills. So let me share a couple of these quick vids with a couple of quick spots with y'all. Couple of quick spots. One or two. This full screen. Oh. This woman makes me laugh. This woman makes me laugh. She refers to Trump as Mr. Puff. Mr. Puff. Yeah. I don't know why. Cheeto Puffs. I think that's what it is. I think it's because of Cheeto Puffs. But I think you're gonna enjoy this woman here. I'm gonna do it like this. I think that's a good way to do it. All right, what do you got for us, woman?
No! Just leave Mr. Puff alone! United States government, damn! Every time you turn around, y'all fucking with the Puff. And we're tired of y'all.
They are effing with the Puff. Y'all effing with the Puff. She's angry. They're all effing with the Puff. Why you all effing with the Puff?
And we're tired of y'all. I done told y'all over and over again, we don't give a fuck what y'all got to say. We gonna vote for the Cheeto Puff anyway. Y'all ain't paying attention, United States government. If Mr. Puff really did something for the January 6th, yes the hell would. He would have been the fuck up in jail. And all these damn bum-ass people trying to get some damn money out of Mr. Puff. That's some bullshit, for real. Let me tell you something.
For real. I gotta start using for real a lot more. I have to use for real a lot more.
Anytime somebody got to go and take the civil way to get some money from you over a crime, that's because didn't Nathan happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Period. You can tell didn't Nathan happen criminally because civilly half the motherfucking jury didn't believe the bitch. So leave Mr. Puff alone, United States government. We're sick of this shit for real.
For real.
That's it, that's all. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I'm like Mr. Biden, I'm tired. I'm fixing to go to bed. I was supposed to be going to bed, but every time
Why not?
Mr. Puff gotta go to court.
Why not?
Y'all keep spending our money on unnecessary bullshit, causing all this high-ass inflation.
Language.
The hell? And everybody that's sitting up there wanting to vote for Biden again, all y'all ass need to be charged for elder abuse. That man old as fuck. He said he was tired. He better go to bed. And I'm with him. I'm going to bed too. Now leave Mr. Puff the fuck alone. Damn. I always gotta get up here because of the United States government. Because the government be governing too much.
Why do people share this with me? I don't
Smoke
know.
the blood and shut the fuck up. Oh my God.
Leave Mr. Puff alone. I agree with her on that. I agree with her at that. Yeah, I don't know why people. I don't know. Yeah, black people are funny. They are. You can call that racist. You can call whatever you want. Anyhow, this is not Trump related. I know when I first saw that woman, I thought it was Fani. Also, I thought it was Fani. I was like, oh, maybe it's not Fani. Maybe that's not Fani. Anyhow. more white pilling for you is that it seems folks in Hollywood are starting to actually be brave enough to push back on idiocy. Pushing back on idiocy is Kevin James doing a bit of stand-up here. Kevin James, you might recall him from that show where he was on like a long time ago. Maybe this is why he's not on the air anymore, but look at his thoughts about keeping score.
My boy wants to. Son wanted to play Little League, so I called.
Now, I gotta get my volume up here. Definitely want to enhance my volume. We're gonna do what we can on that.
The coach.
I'm gonna try refreshing this, see if this will work with the enhanced volume. Let's refresh this.
My son wanted to play Little League, so I called the coach and I said, "Hey, listen, my boy wants to play. Is it okay if he joins the team?" He's like, "Yeah, we didn't even start practicing yet. We practiced Thursday night. I'll bring him down." He says, "Yeah, I just want to let you know that we don't keep score in this league." So I was like, "Why? Why not?" He's like, "Well, we don't want to upset the parents and disappoint any of the kids, so we don't keep score." I was like, "Why even have him bat?"
Oh, why even have him bat? Why even have him bat? There you go.
I played Little League in the 1970s.
So did I, by the way. I did. I played for the Youngins of Hillcrest. I'll tell you a quick Little League story after he's done. My Little League adventures. Little League adventures. I wasn't terrible, but I only remember. I have one highlight that I remember.
For 5 years, I got a trophy once, 1 year. That's it, one trophy. You know why? Because we won. That's it. You know how I know? Because we kept score. You know why we did that? Because that's how baseball's played. The team with the larger number, the more runs, they're the winners. And the losers are the team with the less numbers. They're the losers. And they go home as a team. And they try to come back and do better. And sometimes that drive actually helps them. That's actually the better choice, to lose and try to come back, because it's human nature. Human nature. It's good for them. My son wanted to play.
It is. And that's something that I think far too many parents, and to be fair, parents in my generation. It's parents in my generation that really seem to be like, oh no, we have to be so worried about like kids like feels getting all down in the dumps and stuff like that. And worst thing in the world. Because what are you worried? They're gonna get depressed? Okay, good. Let them get depressed. That's good. Let them get upset about it. But you don't tell them, yeah, you're always gonna be a lifelong loser. I'll tell you, I never won a championship. Played for the Youngins of Hillcrest, played a little league for the Youngins of Hillcrest, and we lost a lot all the time. Never wanted to play against Youngins of Queens Valley. Oh my God, that pitcher, Abish, he was able to throw that. He was able to throw that ball so freaking hard. I was like, that should be illegal for a kid to be able to throw it that hard. You know what? That's how you learn. That's how you get better. My kids who are I live next door. A lot of you know I live next door to my sister. My sister, God bless her, 7 boys, no girls. 7 boys, no girls. And my 7 nephews, and they're like my sons because they, grew up next door to me. They're like, my second set of sons there. 7 boys, no girls, of obviously, age range of that are spanning, I don't know, roughly 15 years or so. That over 15 years, she had 7 boys. So my two of my 3 sons, one of my sons is like the same age as another one of his sons. Born a couple months apart. Then, so I had another son, and she had 2 boys. I had 2 sons, and she had 2 boys in between, which meant that my sons were continually, especially my youngest one, was continually playing 2-on-2 football and stuff like that, where he was just, when you're 8 years old, playing against a 10-year-old is tough. 9 years old, playing against 11-year-old, 10 against 12, it's tough because they're just naturally going to be bigger. That's just the way it is. They're going to be faster. They could throw things further. You have to work your tail off to keep up with them. But I mean, that's who he's got to play with, like, easy access all the time as far as being able to play sports and stuff like that. So I got to tell you, my youngest son, that dude is a freaking jock because he basically was cutting his teeth his whole childhood trying to keep up with kids who were at 2 years advancement over him. So yeah, did he suck at first compared to them? Of course he did. That's human nature. But the only way you grow is if you're constantly trying to bang your head into it against a wall, trying to figure out how to get better and better so you can actually compete. That's how you get better. I mean, you have to have a drive. One of my proudest moments of my life. My oldest son, 6 years old. My wife told me this story. I wasn't there when it happened, but she came back and told me that she like Mort came back and he had his whole face was bloody. I was like, what happened? So she said, I asked him, what happened? So he said, I slid head first into third base. And she's like, okay. He's like, third base was a tree. And I'm like, that's my boy. That's my boy. That filled me with so much pride. That filled me with so much pride that you're so into the sport that you're not even thinking about the fact of what reality is, that you're sliding face first into a tree. I was so proud. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Because you got to work your tail off, whatever needs to get done, that you're just basically, you're not even thinking that it's a tree. To you, in your brain, when you're a kid playing sports and you're really like driven, which is the way you should be playing, anything, that when you're driven, you're not thinking it's a tree. You're literally picturing third base. I think when kids aren't playing competitive, they don't understand that mindset. That it's like in your mind's eye, you're not seeing a tree. You're just seeing third base until all of a sudden that tree is 4 inches from your face when you're like, oh my God. Which, okay. And you learn to sort of slide around the tree. The first time you bash your face in there, and then you learn, okay, you know what? Maybe I could touch it with my hand and slide around the tree instead of like actually driving my face into the bark there. That's part of learning. That's how you grow up. That's how you get better. Thank God he was okay. He ended up okay. He still found himself a bride. He grew up, found himself, she looked past the fact that his nose was over here. She was I'm kidding. Nah, he's good. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. That's it. Rub some dirt in it. Exactly, Mark. Rub some dirt in it. These kids are taught today. It's like, oh my gosh, boo-hoo, you lost. It's like, it's like, it's how, what's your motivation to like figure out how to get better? If it's just like, we don't keep score, well, it's like, you don't need a bat. Why do you need a bat? To see someone might hit it too far and it's going to embarrass the other kids. This is the stupidest thing in the world. And I really think it's sapped a lot out of like the next generation. I really do. The whole participation trophy thing is just, that's basically communism. It's terrible. And that's why you got a lot of wussy kids, just kids who can't. And then they grow up to be reporters like this guy over here. Reporters who ask questions like this guy right here. Last clip I'm going to share with you before we get into Fani Willis. And I always comment about how I can't stand people who will take a clip and they'll be like, this is fire, or check this out. And then the whole clip that they're showing is just not them, it's someone else. I'm like, you're a thief. You're a lazy thief. Check this out. It's fire. This is how you handle a situation. No. And I'm going to tell you this. That's not what Candace Owens did with this clip. And I'll explain the difference why in a moment.
Here is how Dana White responded to those reporters.
But you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
I'm
free speech. Control what people say. Going to tell people what to believe? Going to tell people? I don't tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
What is your?
I was asking.
I like the way he said that. What is your question?
In that question, I'll move on though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want and they can believe whatever they want.
So that moment is what happens when a coward meets a man. Here is how.
And the reason I'm saying that she was not just stealing a clip is because she framed it in a way at the end there, which says that's what happens when a coward meets a man. And the mindset of that guy is like, how can you aren't you afraid of the repercussions of that? She's right. That's at least some perspective she's giving just with those 5 words at the end, where I'm like, okay, you know what? You're adding something to the clip that you're pointing out that this is a reporter who's a coward asking a question of a man. And a man, because I'll tell you this much. If that dude was a real man, the question wouldn't even dawn on him. Be like, why should he be concerned about that? That's just if you have confidence and you believe in yourself and you believe in basic, foundational values, you're not sitting there like, oh my gosh, maybe this is gonna hurt the branding or whatever. You just be like, look, people gotta grow up. That reporter is a participation trophy victim. He's a victim of having received too many participation trophies in his life. That's why you end up thinking that that's a good question to be asked, because you think that other people think like you when men don't. You sort of picture society as filled with like a whole bunch of other people. You don't even realize you're cucked. You realize that, and I don't mean cucked like by a woman. I mean cucked like by society. You're cucked by society. That's a different sort of thing. When you're cucked by society, it's like, I can't stand up to society. So whatever way society is basically going to bitch slap me, I got to take it and basically adopt behavior that's going to avoid that slap so I don't get hit anymore. That's what that question is. That's what that question is. So, yeah, I'm just saying, so that's value add that Candace throws on the end there by just pointing out that this is a coward versus a man. That's how you see that conversation. So that is not purely stealing someone else's content. Be like, hey, here's a cool clip. I just told you this is a cool clip. So now like and follow for more. Like, you suck. You're just a collator. You're just like collating clips and then saying this is a cool clip and this is a cool. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, but I think Candace adds value there just by that little comment there. So I'm not going to say that she's doing it. All right, I think we got that out of the way. It's time for us to start getting into Fani. Time for us to start getting into Fani. I bully my kids every day for being scrawny a week and make them give me their lunch money because other kids. I'm not saying to be mean to your kids. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying, what I'll tell you, I've told my kids, every single one of them, if one of your siblings hits you, I want you to come to your mother or father and to me or your mother and like basically, sort that. But if someone who's not your sibling hits you, I want you to hit them back harder, so that they don't hit you again. That's how you stop them from hitting. You hit them back harder. And if the school says that you're in trouble for it, I promise I will have your back 100%. Make sure they hit you first. You shouldn't be hitting first. You shouldn't be bullying other kids. But if someone hits you, I said you hit him back harder. I don't care you got him in the nuts. I don't care what you got to do. If he's bigger than you and that's how you got to do, I don't care. But I'm not having my kid being like basically, punched around or having his lunch money taken from him or made to feel like he's like, some sort of that he's helpless. No, go hit him. And I said, I'll tell you this much. If you hit him and he beats you up, I'll buy you ice cream. Okay? I'll buy you ice cream if you lose. I just want you to fight. Just fight. Never go first. That one time it sort of backfired a little bit because I didn't make a rule for cousins and he misunderstood. a situation once where someone threw a ball and he thought the guy threw the ball at him intentionally, and he ended up going after his cousin who was much bigger than him and pounding on him before running away. But yeah. Anyhow, now you got to teach your kids. Look, stand up for yourself. Your job as a parent, is prepare your kids for life, and a life where they're able to ultimately one day take care of you, right? I mean, if you have a healthy relationship and, normal life expectancy type of things, basically, they should be in a situation that they're one day going to be taking care of you. Now, how the heck are they going to ever learn how to do that if you spend their entire childhood taking care of them? That doesn't make any sense. You need to teach them age-appropriate levels of taking care of themselves. And yeah, sometimes it means fighting other kids. It starts with making your own bed, dressing yourself, showering yourself, cleaning yourself, taking care of your own bodily needs, your own maintenance, your own self-maintenance, feeding yourself, all this stuff that we teach infants and toddlers. That's all self-maintenance. You teach a kid and wean him out of diapers. You're teaching him self-maintenance. You also teach him self-maintenance and dealing with society, where it's like, you know what? If someone comes over you and punches you, you punch him back. That's how you teach a kid to actually, deal with society. I'm saying that's not very nice. Please don't do that again. Oh my God, no kid of mine's ever going to grow up like that. So there you go. And I'll tell you something. Once people see that, other bullies see that you punch back, you're just never going to be the victim anymore. You're not going to be the victim. Someone else who's got crap parents will end up being the victim. Woe unto them. Trump is at the UFC. People went crazy when he entered. Someone shared that with me. I would share the entrance with you, but I'm sure that the music playing in the background is going to get me a strike. So, I mean, I can share it without the audio, but it just feels empty without that. That clip was fire. That's what I got. That clip, check out this clip. It's fire. Oh, I forgot. There was a couple other things. There's a couple other things I had to share with you. I'll get to that in just a moment. Really funny stuff that was shared with me that I was like, oh, I totally forgot to share this. This is really, really one. There was one or two that was shared with me that I was like, that's. I know this is something. This is not the clip. Where was it? No, I sent this to myself. This one I said was so good. I sent it to myself. Okay, this is one I pulled out here. This is great. I'll share two. See, here's Conor McGregor. This is I can share with him coming into the UFC. This is, like I said, someone shared this with me.
So making his way to the octagon, the 45th president of the United States of America, Donald J.
There's the music. I don't know what the heck it is. I'm sure it's going to get me hit. I'm sure of it. Anyway, so I'll turn down the volume here, but you can basically see. Which, by the way, that also makes you feel like, why am I trying so hard if there's not going to be any validation or recognition? Why am I trying so hard? There's zero validation or recognition. It saps you. That's why I referred to as being communist, this communist mindset, because it's basically like, we're gonna rob any motivation for you to try hard from everyone, so everyone will just be like equally okay, not really happy. That's what communism is. That's what it is. You see the level. You get the gist of it. You get the gist of it. The other thing I really wanted to share with you, though, this was fire. This made me laugh. This was great. This might be worth a copyright strike. So if you're not seeing it, it means I got a copyright strike and I had to edit this part out. So there you go. This is worth it.
My fellow Americans.
Apparently, this is a part of the State of the Union speech that got edited out. It got edited out, unfortunately.
Here's the simple truth. Look at the chaos. End it now.
The President of the United States!
God, that's really funny. That's really funny. Kicking him off. Pete, Pistol Pete there, being all excited. A little nod there from Pistol Pete. He's so excited. I don't know who did this, but this is great editing. We got Nancy there, Maxine Waters. They're all excited. They're all excited for Trump coming out. It's great. It's really wonderful. Schumer, Joe Biden, they're all excited. I don't know who did that, but that is great. That is really great. Oh, so good. Good job, Catch 20. I'm gonna catch up. There you go. Anyhow, I'm gonna share. Someone critiqued me that I don't share my clips on Locals. So I feel like, you know what? He's like, I'm a paying subscriber here. I can't catch every one of your your stuff. Can you at least give me the source material so I can, like, you know, watch it on my own afterwards? And I'm like, you know what? I think that's a fair request. I think that's actually a logical thing. That's a nice way of just rewarding people who are not simply following me over at goodlogic.locals.com, but they're also, you know, paying members. And like I said, I don't make it exclusive. I don't care that if you don't have the money, I'm perfectly happy. I far prefer that you ask me for a code, and I will happily give you the code. Give you a code for free. And you can roll that code over and over again for 6 months. And then if you still don't have, you come back, you just need to send me any DM saying, Joe, you know, I really want to follow you. I don't have entertainment budget, because I understand it's a Biden economy. A lot of people don't have, even if it wasn't a Biden economy, even during Trump economy, some people just don't have money. It's designed, the $5 a month is designed purely to sort of be like a museum type of thing. Like, it's a suggested thing. Like, I need to sort of have some sort of hideaway in case YouTube takes this channel and brings it crashing down. Because right now, I'm so reliant on YouTube that it's terrifying me. So that's why I have that thing on Locals, but it's not meant to keep anyone out. It's meant to basically motivate those who have an entertainment budget to kick in $5 a month, which I feel like is not a lot of money at all. Fortunately for most people, for those who don't have any entertainment budget, I don't want you to, like, you know, miss a meal over it or not feed your kids. Just tell me, hey, look, I don't have the entertainment budget. Please, if you can hook me up, and I will happily, I'm not going to ask for your finances. I won't ask a single question. I'll tell you something else. I actually realized it's a backdoor way for people on Twitter who I might not otherwise respond to. Like, I'll just sort of hit them back and be like, here it is. Because I really want everyone to be there. And I feel like, you know what? Maybe in 6 months, something like that, things will be better for you, and you won't need it at that point. But I really just like having a community that I can rely on, God forbid, if things come crashing over on YouTube. It also is a way for YouTube and Rumble folk. I see you guys in the ghetto there. It's a way for them to sort of intermingle with each other a little bit in an environment that hopefully is safe. So, because, you know, I want you all to have a safe space. It's very important. Very important. Yeah, participations in safe spaces. Participation trophies in safe spaces. No, it's an environment. When I say safe, I mean you're not going to be censored. So there you go. Anyhow, last couple of comments here before I get into Fani. Any thoughts on the FDNY hunt for Letitia Booz? That was pretty funny. I'm not sure if you're the one who shared it with me. Someone shared that with me on Twitter, where it was like it was pretty funny watching how the fire department of New York basically said, "Go bite yourself," but and started screaming "Trump, Trump, Trump" when she was getting some sort of award. That was pretty great. I don't see it here now, so we're gonna have to go past that. I messed up earlier, so I gotta spend more money. Get your kids into combat sports, martial arts. I agree with that. Great. I was a troubled youth, and wrestling is what turned me around. Totally understand that. It gives you an opportunity to sort of fight through your aggressions in a way that is socially acceptable. And just get that part of you out. I'll tell you this much. I found similar to like wrestling. Like I wasn't dealing with like massive amounts of like internal issues, but like one time I went with a bunch of friends to paintballing. And when I got out onto that paintball field, I felt like friggin' Rambo. It's like I became someone I did not even recognize. I became like this whole thing where it's like I just wanted to hunt and kill people. And it was the most awesome feeling in the world. You sort of need those outlets. So I totally agree with you. Martial arts is a great outlet. Wrestling is a great outlet. Working out in general is great outlet. Or sometimes paintball. I really become like, you don't understand. It's like I'm not like I go into this zone. I talk about how, like, you know, I can't find the pickles because I don't have like the peripheral vision that a woman has. So my brain is always like boom, 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 boom. But it's when I'm on a paintball field, I am just like this breathing hulk of just like, and I get like all centered in like this, which is the same thing when I'm working out. I'll get like centered, and that's why I need mirrors when I'm working out, because I'll sort of stare at myself, like, and just sort of like I'll be like glaring at myself, like pushing myself harder, like, and I'm just sort of staring into a mirror, and I'm tuning out the entire gym. It's just me and some blaring music, and just me just like staring and just like really feeling the rush of just like pumping. So yeah, it's a very healthy thing. Totally agree with you on that. Totally agree with you. Thank you, Tech Ball. If I pay you, will you shill for me? I don't know. I mean, we should talk off screen, off camera. I don't know what that means. It also depends on what I'm shilling. What am I shilling? I don't know what I would. A couple of people reached out to me. It's sort of, yeah. Anyhow, where was I? Okay, let's get into Fani. First up, got some exciting news for you. So it's going to start with this. We'll start with this. This is exciting. As of 2 days ago, Fani Willis is no longer running unopposed in her election. Thank you to Courtney Kramer, Supreme Court 1, for challenging her. She's a patriot, pledged to actually do something about the crime in Atlanta. Let's defeat Fani. Now, I don't know if she's going to win. I don't know if she has any chance of success. But let's get a small glimpse of Courtney Kramer and a little clip of her talking about this case. There is Courtney Kramer. So, you know, she has the chops of politics. Phil Holloway also, who I had the pleasure of meeting the other day with on Layback, when I was on Layback Law with Phil and Viva Fry and Ian Corzine and Danny On, and we were having a great time there. So yeah, that was whatchamacallit. I'll tell you a quick story about that. I ended up late in the afternoon on Friday. I had to like talk to an attorney in a case I'm actually handling, one of the handful of cases that I'm still tied into. And I was negotiating with the guy, and he called me like at 5 in the afternoon, and I had to shut down because I'm going to have Shabbos and everything. And, you know, so I started explaining to him, and we were working out timing of schedules. So what I said to him was this. I said, hey, look, March 25th, I said, you know, we're supposed to have a deposition next week, but we're probably going to end up pushing it back. So I said, if we push it back, I just want to caution you on this. I know my client needs to come in and be deposed. That's fine. But starting March 25th, there's the Trump trial in New York is starting March 25th, and I am going to be covering every second of that. And I need to, so I can't lock in for March 25th until that trial is over. I can't do anything. So I really need to get this thing done before March 25th because I'm going to be covering it. And he's like, what do you mean covering it? So I said, I'm a podcaster. So he's like, what do you podcast? So I said, that's primarily what I do. I do almost no legal work whenever possible now. I mean, this is I have a small handful of cases. This happens to be one I'm doing for a friend. So, and I started talking to the guy. He's a New York attorney. And I said, So I started talking to him. I was like, most people in the Northeast region here aren't a big fan of my politics, whatever. I gave him a little oversight of like, my perspectives on Trump and stuff like that. He's like, yeah, I follow a few lawyers like that. Like I follow this guy, Viva Fry. So I was like, oh, I'm good friends with Viva Fry. So he's like, no way, Viva Fry. He's like all astonished. It was pretty funny. I was like, that's pretty wild. Like he became so much nicer when he started finding out that I'm like friends with Viva Fry. So there you go. I don't think Viva knows him. He certainly didn't seem to imply that. He was very excited. I was on a stream with him like 3 hours ago. So I was like, he's a good friend of mine. I was texting him all week, sorting out like the times like with Fani and stuff like that. So he's like, no, he's like astonished. So I thought that was funny. He was so awestruck. I was like, wow, I guess Viva Fry is reaching like a certain level where it's like, even people in mainstream life, people I come across like have heard of him. That's a different level of fame. Because I always have my whole tier system as far as fame, as far as what being famous is, which has A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, E tier. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to get into it now. But anyhow, we're getting back over here to Miss Courtney Kramer. So I do plan on having Phil Holloway on sometime this week. I mentioned to him that I plan on, because he's been breaking a lot of stories. He's an Atlanta attorney, and he's been breaking a lot of these stories as to developments in Atlanta relating to Fani Willis. So I certainly plan on trying to coordinate with him to have him on sometime soon, hopefully the next couple of days. So here's her pinning 10 hours ago. I'm thrilled to announce I qualified to run for district attorney of Fulton County yesterday. It's time to restore integrity and accountability back into Fulton to ensure that no elected official, lawyer, or district attorney is above the rule of law. Let's do this. # fire Fani. Love it. In fact, I'm going to give you a little retweet there because why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I give you a little heart of support? And let's hear this woman out where she's talking about this case.
Going on down there. Now we find out that maybe she had a relationship with Mr. Wade way before she hired him. Now we've got all kinds of conflicts in the testimony. Then we find out that many times he went to her home at midnight, left at 5 a.m. I guess that's why they were billing for 24 hours. I'm not sure. I don't want to get involved in it, but seems a little fishy to me. I don't know what you're doing between 12 and 5 a.m. Well, I'm not going to speculate.
Now, this is before she qualified. This interview is from before she actually was qualified to run. She obviously was trying to garner interest at this point. So, because this was early last week.
Anyway, Trump said it at the rally in Virginia. He said, well, at least we know that Ed Wade must be good at something. What's going on here, Courtney Kramer?
Well, I don't think they were just sleeping between those hours, John. But so on this past Friday on March 1st, Judge McAfee heard closing arguments from each side in this ethics case against Fani Willis. And at the hearing, you had the prosecution argue that there was no actual conflict here between Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. Of course, the defense argued that it doesn't really matter. Well, there is an actual conflict, but on top of that, there's also the appearance of a conflict. And that is another really big problem that Fani Willis has here. And the fact that she was going on these trips, the fact that she and Nathan likely perjured themselves during their testimony, the fact that she also admitted to a campaign finance violation, that she took cash out of her own campaign fund. There's multiple issues with the testimony that we've heard over the last few weeks. And Judge McAfee on Friday said that he will likely issue an order in the next 2 weeks. And in that order, we will see if he's going to disqualify her or not. And I feel strongly that if he doesn't disqualify her, you have a huge problem here. You then have all the actions that Fani Willis did in her official capacity as an elected DA. Basically, that's saying that you can do what she's been doing. And
that is a message that would be sent. The message basic, because everyone knows what she did. Everyone knows how she testified. This is a complete black eye on the judicial system of Fulton County if she stays in at this point. There's no question about it. And I was actually saying has a certain sense of this is a little bit ironic that it's because of this hearing itself that this has gotten such international attention, that it's like whatever concerns in a normal case we would have about appearances of impropriety, those concerns in this case went from being a molehill into being Kilimanjaro. I mean, everyone knows about this. So it's not just like there's an appearance of impropriety. There's an appearance of impropriety. That's everywhere. Everyone's talking about this appearance of impropriety. So it's like, how the heck can you just let that be like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, there are different levels of appearance of impropriety, and there are different levels of impropriety, which might have an impact on that. And then there's different levels of appearance. And frankly, if we're thinking about philosophically, the magnitude of the appearance should be a factor because of the impact it will have on society if you allow even a modicum of impropriety to go. You see what I'm saying? In other words, you could either have massive impropriety, which is not really, but not a conflict. And frankly, in my opinion, this is massive impropriety. When you're talking about potentially the impropriety is that society believes she committed perjury on the stand. That's a whole new level of appearance of impropriety. And that's just the reality. People don't believe her. No one in the right mind believes her. I mean, you have to be deep in the tank to think that, oh, she's totally telling the truth here, and there was no relationship before April of 2022. I mean, that you can basically, count in one newsroom staff, like the number of people who actually buy that story still. Now, you could try to pretend, if you're Judge McAfee and you're looking to find some way to give her the benefit of the doubt, you can try to pretend that other people, but the reality is no one believes it. I mean, no one. So now that's a much, and given the international acclaim that this hearing has gotten, you can't deny the fact that this appearance of a grave impropriety is arguably more significant in this prosecution at this stage of a prosecution. I mean, not post-conviction, but prior to conviction. When can we think of examples where there was such an egregious appearance of impropriety like we have of the district attorney and her special prosecutor both being widely believed by the majority of the world to have committed perjury on the stand, to insulate themselves in their current position? I mean, it's just the cover-up makes it much worse than anything as far as like she got a few $1,000s from him. No, it's the fact that at this point, she's lying under oath to try and maintain her position. At least in my estimation, as well as the estimation of the overwhelming majority of people. That's an egregious impropriety.
You can get away with taking money out of your campaign finance account. You can have an appearance of a conflict. You can hire your lover and give him over $500,000 within a year, and you financially benefit from that. So I really don't think Judge McAfee wants to set that standard going forward. But I do think that in that order, we are going to see if there is just the need for an appearance of a conflict or if there's a need for an actual conflict in this situation. So the next 2 weeks are going to be very telling here in Fulton County.
So there you go. That's Courtney Kramer talking a little bit about the case here. You get a little vibe for her. Can you please read the XDMs no blue check mark? I often do. I often scan through them. I don't know. I don't always click them open. So I often do. I'm afraid that if I respond that because I know once I respond to messages, then basically some people will just be in my box all the time. And then I'm basically left with a choice of either just ignoring it, which then I have like this markup on the side of how many things are waiting for me to go check on them, which is it's a little annoying. Or it creates more chaos in my inbox when I allow that rather than just leaving them like unopened. Let me see if I can check. Let me see if I see you here. Let me check you out. Let me check you out. Awkward. Where did I see? Yeah, you see? You use the code. There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of you. That's fine. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. After the show, I'll take care of you. Okay? Where was I at? Okay. Now, we went from that opinion as to where Judge McAfee is at to this one. And this is what makes me convinced that, I don't know, at this point in time, Fox's sole interest is to make people dumber, to make them less informed. Their agenda, I think, is to make you less informed. That's how bad Fox has become at this point. Coffee says, saw an article today that Courtney Crane identifies as MAGA by just links to her Instagram, which is private. Would love it if we can get a MAGA DNA infiltrated. Yeah, I think we all would love it. We all would love it. It's hard to get in these big cities. It's hard to get someone to knock out a black woman, but I don't think she's very popular even there. I don't think she's popular. I think black people are starting to wake up. I think they're starting to wake up. So the polls are indicating they're starting to wake up. They're starting to wake up, hopefully, for their own good, for nothing more. So we went from that opinion to this opinion from another attorney about the situation with McAfee.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis could learn her fate next week. A judge will decide whether or not to kick her off the Georgia election interference case against former President Trump over alleged misconduct involving her personal relationship with one of her prosecutors. For thoughts, let's bring in Richard St. Paul. He is principal attorney and founder of St. Paul Law Firm. Good to see you, Richard.
And he's about to make you dumber. Okay? Seriously. Bad job, Richard. But for one reason or another, he's the expert that they had to bring in here.
Here we are. Thank you. It's an election interference case, but the focus has shifted to DA Fani Willis. So, Richard, do you expect the judge to reject or not the motion to disqualify the Fulton County DA?
Well, the bar for disqualification in Georgia is pretty high.
Is it? What's the bar?
Right. So essentially, Trump's team would have to prove that there was that Fani Willis had some type of personal interest in the stake of Donald Trump's or the defendant's convictions. That is that, for example, that the special prosecutor Wade will receive some type of incentive or bonus if Trump is convicted.
No, that's not established at all. Not established at all. So first you're starting off with a yardstick, which this is what the state is claiming. And if you watch closing arguments, it did not seem like McAfee was buying their argument at all. He was pointing out all the flaws in that argument and pointing out no flaws in the arguments about the appearance of impropriety standard at a pre-conviction stage.
We've seen no evidence of that. And so since there's a high standard of disqualification for a district attorney in Georgia, it's very unlikely that the judge would decide to disqualify her.
See, and part of the reason this bothers me is because when you misinform the public the way Richard St. Paul is here, as to what the established standard in Georgia is, even if you're arguing that that's the standard, that's certainly not established. It's certainly not established. If anything, the defense has made a phenomenal case to say that the yardstick pre-conviction is actually appearance of impropriety. But I don't think this guy watched closing arguments. I don't think he saw anything of that. Instead, he's telling the public that there's a lot of ledge here for the judge to go out on. And he should, under the law, legally be leaning toward allowing Fani to stay. I don't like that because that helps create a public sentiment in that direction, which then would help give the McAfee cover to pretend that is the law.
Anything's possible here.
Well, let's take a look at the pleas to Judge McAfee, the legal briefs from both sides. I'm going to put it on the screen. We'll start with Fani Willis's office on Wednesday, saying the binding case law in Georgia is clear. A trial court is not authorized to disqualify an elected district attorney absent a showing by a, quote, high standard of proof that such an elected district attorney either has an actual conflict of interest or has engaged in forensic.
Fani Willis had some.
Okay, so I want to go back to that because that what she read there is not a proper statement of the law based on how the judge broke it down. I want to go back there because what she said, there's two parts here. There's two parts here, right?
There was that Fani Williams had some type of personal interest, it's very unlikely.
Put it on the screen. We'll start with Fani Willis.
Let's go through these words. The binding case law in Georgia is clear. A trial court is not authorized to disqualify an elected district attorney absent a showing by a high standard of proof. This is true. But a high standard of proof means that you need to have documented evidence. That's as opposed you can't just go on someone saying, someone making a claim. That's what the phrase a high standard of proof means. It means that we need to really know for sure that whatever yardstick is met has been met. Not speculating that yardstick has been met, but we need to know that yardstick is met. How are we getting to this yardstick? Now, you can have a yardstick that's here, or you can have a yardstick that's here. So you can have a yardstick that there's an appearance of impropriety down here as opposed to a conflict of interest, which is up here. But what the state wants you to believe is what they did when they framed their argument, and the judge was shredding them on this, is that they're saying there has to be a high standard of proofs. That's the nature as to what can we use as a ladder to reach this yardstick. Okay, so I think this is the best way to analogize so you can understand. Okay, let's assume that there is some sort of wall that you need to scale. There are two, and the question is, which wall do you need to scale? Do you need to scale the 10-foot wall, or do you need to scale the 20-foot wall? Okay, so now that's one argument. How high is this wall? The lower wall is the appearance of impropriety. Only 10 feet. You only need to get that wall 10 feet. Then there's another different wall of 20 feet. That's conflict of interest. Much harder. Okay? Now, the question is, what evidence can we rely on to scale the wall? That is basically saying, do I need to use a sturdy ladder? Or can I use, a bunch of boxes that I find in my backyard and pile them up and use that? So if you're requiring it's got to be a really sturdy, boom, can't rip it down type of ladder, that's saying you need, documentation and records and proof and stuff like that. But then the question is, how high does the ladder have to go? Does it have to go to 10 feet or does it have to go to 20 feet? So these are two different areas that are basically the state desperately tried glomming together into one to try and basically say that this claim, this statement that it has to be a high standard of proof is implying it's a 20-foot wall. That's not what it was meant to imply at all. If you read the case law and, as based on the way the judge seemed to be reading it, that's basically saying what type of evidence can I use and rely on in order to disqualify her? Can I rely on these flimsy, he said, she said things that I give more credibility to one side than the other, so that's why I'm going to do it? Or do I actually need real documentation, recordings or, and phone records, things of that nature that can't be faked, can't be scammed? But still, the question is, that doesn't mean just because it says you need a high standard of proof, that means the nature of the evidence has to be a high standard of proof. Not that the wall is 20 feet high. It just means that whatever you're going to be relying on to scale that 10-foot wall, that has to be rock sturdy. And I think this analogy helps you better understand how there's two different things that are being glommed into one. One is how high the wall is. The second is the nature of what type of stuff we can rely on to get over whatever size wall it is. So I agree that mere speculation or mere comments, whatever, that's flimsy, and we don't want to just dismiss a district attorney based on relatively flimsy evidence. That does not mean that the yardstick pre-conviction is the 20-foot high conflict of interest standard. Doesn't mean that at all. But they basically tried using that statement from one case and then using it in application to a different situation, which was post-conviction, which is the second slide.
Is on Wednesday saying the binding case law in Georgia is clear. A trial court is not authorized to disqualify an elected district attorney absent a showing by a, quote, high standard of proof that such an elected district attorney either has an actual conflict of interest or has engaged in forensic misconduct.
And that second part there is referring to post-conviction. So they took something from case A and put it together with from case B, and the judge pointed out, he's like, I would think that post-conviction is probably a higher yardstick to throw out a district attorney than there is pre-conviction. And that's philosophically logical. And that's where I saw, it's one of multitude of times that the Judge McAfee showed his high intellect, where he's reading a case and he's like, you're citing me a case where there was a conviction already. And philosophically, to understand why it should be a higher yardstick post-conviction, just so you can all be on the same page. Why would it go from being what I'm essentially saying is this: if there's no conviction yet, and we're trying to decide, should we throw out the district attorney? Then you only need to show that the district attorney has an appearance of impropriety. If there already is a conviction, and now you want to throw out the district attorney at that point and undo his or her work, then you need to show conflict of interest. You need to reach a much higher barrier. Why would that be? Well, you can understand a multitude of reasons as to why pre-conviction there would be a lower standard. Because pre-conviction, we have a district attorney who's in the middle of bringing the case forward. Everything that the district attorney is doing, the public is going to be seeing those actions and is going to be under the realization that this is a person who maybe he or she is motivated by this impropriety that's going on there. Maybe there's all these different biases that are going on here, all these different issues of things that look shady, and that doesn't look like justice is happening. So there, even when we have an appearance of impropriety, that sort of is tainting the entire process as the process is happening. While the process is going on, there's this underlying backdrop. The elephant is constantly in the room of, wow, there's this impropriety that's going on here with this district attorney. So you can understand why an appearance of impropriety at that stage would be really significant. In contrast, once you have a conviction, there I can understand the bar being raised to conflict of interest, because there's not much more work that the district attorney is doing, first and foremost. I mean, there's not that much that they're involved in. We're up to like a sentencing phase at this point, but everyone knows this person's guilty. All of a sudden, after guilt is coming along, now the defendant is coming in here and saying, hey, there's an appearance of impropriety. A jury of a dozen people found you unanimously guilty of whatever crimes you've been convicted of. If we're going to now undo all of that work, and there's not that much more for the DA to do, and just undo all of it, we need to know that there was a genuine conflict of interest at this point. And to me, that is common sense as to why there'd be a different yardstick there. But the state is so desperate trying to throw any argument at the wall that they were trying to fake the judge into buying that this is the standard under Georgia law. And the judge seemed to be rejecting it. And that's why this jackass here, no offense to you, Mr. St. Paul, seems to be very ignorant about not just what the law is or is not, because perhaps at best for the state, it's not yet established as to whether or not it's appearance of impropriety or conflict of interest. There's a lot of reasons to believe, based on the language of some of those cases, that says, when there's a conflict or other issue. So there's got to be some point in time where other issue that's not a conflict would be enough to knock a district attorney out. And if it's not pre-conviction in this situation here, when there's a massive appearance, where is it? So, but he seems to just be sold that this is the yardstick that the defendants have to get to, and there's no evidence of that. And to me, I just think that this is just, you're making your audience dumber under the auspices of, oh, I know best, I'm an attorney, and I'm telling you this is what the standard is in Georgia, so his hands are tied.
Now, Tuesday, here's what former President Trump's attorneys wrote. Quote, it says, while the state claims that no prosecutor has ever been disqualified in Georgia for forensic misconduct, no prosecutor in Georgia, elected or otherwise, has engaged in misconduct like Willis and Wade have here. Elected district attorney, constitutional officer, notwithstanding, the remedy must fit the conduct. So, Richard, in this racketeering case,
this is one, by the way, this is one of the things that I wanted to add. I plan on asking Phil when he comes on. I really plan, and I was going to ask him during the course of the show, that when the panel went on, Phil Holloway, who's the Atlanta attorney, who seems to be very knowledgeable about this case, is And I noticed that the defense did something that's a little unusual to do in a closing argument. And that is the judge walked into this evidentiary hearing with a perspective of, okay, Ashley Merchant and other representative of Trump co-defendant Michael Roman, you brought this motion and all your other folks signed on to it. And in your motion, you raised a number of different improprieties. You talked about how he was assigned and the lack of the commissioners to take or to approve it, and how she dipped into this fund and that fund, and to pay him, and that was not something that she was allowed to do, and all these different issues you raised as far as, and that she's doing this for her own fame and publicity, and the multitude of appearances that she has on The View or MSNBC or other stupid appearances that she made. And I don't care. And even after by the time he was making this decision on the evidentiary hearing about the church speech, right? The speech she gave at the church, he's like, I don't care about that. We need to have the only thing we're having an evidentiary hearing about is whether or not there was a romantic relationship that predated Nathan Wade being hired, and whether or not she financially benefited as a result of that. So he took this whole big wide array of improprieties and said, this one, no. This one, no. This one, no. Just this one right here, this one you raised, that's the only one that to me requires an evidentiary hearing. Now, so he basically threw out the church, threw out the financial issues that with hiring Nathan Wade, threw all that stuff in the garbage and said, this is what I care about. And that's what they had the evidentiary hearing on. Then when they come to closing arguments, so they definitely hit on this part here, but they also started throwing in the other stuff. They started throwing in the church speech. They started throwing in this other stuff and all these different improprieties. And almost like they were trying to resurrect it at that point. To me, that was an interesting, and even during the course of the hearing, whenever questions related to this topic over here, just like, no, I'm not allowing you to ask questions on that. We're not looking into that. So now at closing arguments, several of the attorneys for the various defendants started talking about these different things, raising the issue as far as the church speeches, the impropriety, how she's basically, calling them all racists. Now, do I think that he was correct in throwing out all these different things? Some yeah, some no. I think the ones that relate specifically to Trump or to the defendants who are at issue there and are not present in most situations, that I think he should have left in. Whenever you have a political trial, which this is any way you slice it, even if you're sitting on the left, this is a political trial in the sense that, there's political acclaim. She knows she's getting this political recognition for this. So the fact that she's getting recognition for it, the fact that she has her, people care about what she has to say, the fact that she's getting these public appearances and perhaps charging speaking fees, who knows? That would apply every single time anyone any DA files charges against a political figure. And we're not going to, and that would apply to every district attorney in every case with every political figure. So that being the case, that's just the nature of how this is invariably going to play out, and in any courtroom setting with a significant political figure being charged, whether it's a former president or a governor or something like that. There's going to be, the DA is going to get a lot of scrutiny, a lot of spotlight. So I can understand him saying that, well, that just comes with the territory. So just because she happens to be the beneficiary of that, I'm not going to worry myself about that. I can't, because then no one can ever go after her. That's basically an argument to say that no one should ever be able to go after no district attorney should ever be able to go after a political figure, because it's going to get them spotlight, it's going to get them attention, it's going to get them acclaim in their own party. And I can understand him tossing those aside. So the appearances that she's making, I get it. While it sucks and it feels gross, I can understand why he would say, I don't want to hear about that. The stuff about the finances, where she's breaking the law, breaking code, not filing different things that she has to be filing, not notifying people. to me, that's a unique thing to this situation, which most district attorneys would not be engaging in. They would do it properly. You would hope. You should be hoping for that. So to me, that's something he should have paid more attention to, yet he didn't. He said, I don't want to hear about that. That's one of the significant areas where I very much disagreed with him. And only a handful of, let's say, 100 decisions that he made, that there's like 4 or 5 that he made decisions. There's only 4 or 5 decisions he made that I was like, I don't agree with that. But the other 90, 95 of them, I think I was like, yeah, that's the right legal call. Sometimes helping Trump and the defendants, sometimes helping Fani. I was like, that's just what the law is. He's supposed to be making a call based on the law. Now, yet we saw these defendants trying to resurrect these issues. They called us racist. She called us racist. She said this whole thing's about racism. She was race baiting and all this other stuff in her church speech after we filed the motion. It's an unusual tactic to take. Normally, you focus in your closing arguments what the evidentiary hearing was about. I was surprised that they went down that road, but I guess it does lead to the whole, let's look at this appearance of impropriety in its actual context rather than just pretending this is the only impropriety. So when you're asking me, do they apply? I think absolutely 100% they should. Will McAfee allow them to apply? That's a different question. I don't know that anyone knows the answer to other than Judge McAfee. It's a good question. So, Graham's Bar, gifting, good Lawgic membership. God bless you, brother. I like people gifting. Gifting is nice. See, it's spreading love. That's what it is. All right. But I want to get into, at this point, should I go a little further with him? Let's go a little further with him.
Against President Trump and others, did his attorneys prove their claims against Willis of financial gain or a conflict of interest?
Well, let's see what was presented here. Let's talk about. There are 2 things that the Trump team has presented. First is that the romantic relationship created a conflict of interest. Now, according to Georgia law and Georgia case law, even a romantic relationship doesn't directly affect the outcome of the defendant's verdict or defendant's prosecution. If 2 prosecutors are having
that's what the state argued. It's like he only read the state's brief and didn't read the defense's briefs at all.
Fair. That doesn't mean that that's going to address or persuade the outcome of the defendant's guilt or innocence, right? So there hasn't been enough evidence there to show that the romantic conflict is a romantic engagement was a conflict of interest. Now, very messy, extremely messy. Why Fani will put herself in this situation is another thing. And perhaps the best thing in this case would be for Wade, as a special prosecutor, to recuse himself and then continue with the prosecution, regardless of how we feel personally about it. But that would probably be the best thing. The second thing would have to show.
I don't think McAfee's going to allow Wade to stay. I think Wade's gone. That's my call. My call on that is I think he's definitely taking Wade out.
That Willis, District Attorney Willis, somehow financially benefited from appointing Wade as special prosecutor. And what the Trump team has tried to show was that, for example, that Wade took Willis on trips. And that wasn't very clear whether or not that was a financial benefit or not, because Willis said that she reimbursed Wade for those trips. So very difficult facts here to support a conflict of interest. But like I said, the best thing here would be for Wade to just step aside and have this case continue. And again, regardless of my personal feelings on this, although I don't think it should proceed, that's probably the best solution here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can't risk. I'm worried I'm going to make some of you dumber if you hear more of him. But basically, everything he was basically saying there, as far as what the yardstick is not settled Georgia law at all. If anything, McAfee seems to think just the opposite as to what the standard is for what needs to be attained by the defense in order to have him removed. So, yeah, if you saw that clip, just know this, in my humble opinion, when it comes to this particular issue, that gentleman is ignorant. There's no other way I can put it. He's ignorant. And he was not. I don't know how they found him. Maybe in every other area of practice, he's a phenomenal attorney. Could be. I don't know. But he definitely is going out on a limb here, pretending that he knows what the standard is of Georgia law. when that certainly seems to be something that's completely unsettled at the very best, if not leaning toward the defense's perspective that it's appearance of impropriety, not conflict of interest at the pre-conviction phase. So I want to share that with you. All right. But I want to turn a little bit, staying on Fani, turning a little bit here into looking into these developments as to whether or not the White House and the Biden administration specifically has been puppeteering Fani Willis through this entire process, specifically with the objective of trying to remove Trump from being a political threat. Now, for the most part, whenever this issue has come up, I've been the best word I can use is parv. I've been very parv. Parv in this context meaning lukewarm. That's not because I don't believe it to be the case. I am positive. I'm positive that everything that Fani is doing is completely in concert with what the White House wants her to do. How heavily are they involved in this? Then the question comes down to the evidence on that. And that's a natural assumption to have, given the nature of, like, look, this is your biggest political opponent. If you can take him out for committing a crime, well, in that case, that just makes your ability to be reelected, one would think in normal circumstances, to be greatly enhanced. I don't know if it would be enhanced in this circumstance. Frankly, I think if he was to be convicted on anything, it would only strengthen Trump's position in the general election come November 2024. But you can understand why the Democrats might be under the misguided perception that that will somehow help him win election. And that seems to be really disturbing, that it's like we're going after the idea that America could be becoming a type of country where you can try and use lawfare to take someone out. Yes, that is what that is, by the way. Everything that man just said. Yeah, I should have played my cousin Vinny's opening statement in response. That I need to clip that just for the occasional times when I can just whip that out and just be like, nothing said. Nothing more need be said. But anyhow, so getting back here, the question is, what evidence do we have that the Biden White House is not simply happy about what Fani is doing, but actually pushing along? It's a difficult question, because I even had to cede some recognition, and I try viewing this in the light most favorable to the White House and giving them the benefit of the doubt here. So, for example, when I consider the idea of there being people from Georgia talking to people from the J6 committee, to me, a fair argument could be made that if you want to try and expedite, save time and money, and not reinvent the wheel, and you're going after charges from Trump that relate to January 6th, it would make sense to talk to people who have been involved in the investigation. They'd be able to point you in the right direction. It's like, oh, this is a person who can help you. Here, this individual we spoke with, they had this to say, and give you a list of 50 different potential witnesses and what their statements were on the record, and give you recordings of that so they can share all that information with you. And then you can compile it into a nice, neat little box, which you would use for your prosecution. So in that sense, if you're looking at it, pragmatically as to what's the most efficient way to go forward with this. So in that case, even if Trump isn't running for re-election and she just wants to do this, and it's got no benefit to the White House and their attempts to seek re-election 2024, that it would be logical to save time and talk to people who have already spent months or years engaging in an investigation into January 6th. The backdrop behind it, stuff leading up to it, and stuff that happened on January 6th and after. So you can see how that could be a treasure trove a treasure trove of information for someone who is looking to prosecute Trump for these crimes. So in that sense, it's not something, the meetings by Wade and or Fani with people who have knowledge of the results of that investigation, you can see how that's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And that's not necessarily, giving the benefit of the doubt, not necessarily evidence of a collusion between the White House and the Fulton district attorney. But I saw this video and I was like, okay, this is something I really want to break down and look at a lot more deeply. And this is from the Epoch Times, this guy, Roman Balmakov from the Epoch Times. And this is the video that he shared. And we're going to go through this very, very carefully with a scrutinizing eye.
Bombshell file.
Whoa, that's loud.
Filing. 2 days ago, for the first time, White House records were made public, revealing the fact that Ms. Fani Willis, the district attorney of Fulton County, was actively meeting with Kamala Harris shortly before the state of Georgia indicted President Trump. This new record,
and I do want to point this out. Meeting with Kamala Harris does not make sense. Meeting with Kamala Harris does not make sense. If you're trying to give the benefit of the doubt of the White House, I'm just saying, if we're trying to take a view in favor of the White House, that this is not, they're not colluding with the Fulton County to try and keep them off the ballot. I laid out there that you can make a very strong argument for the White House that, hey, the reason they came to us is because, look, we have all, they came to the J6 committee was because they need to get that information from the J6 committee. They did all this research. Why wouldn't they come here? They'd be stupid not to. They'd be foolish not to. So that's an argument which to me makes a great deal of sense. But then meeting with Kamala Harris, what does she know? What the hell does she know about J6? Why are you having a lengthy meeting with Kamala Harris? To me, that reeks of, okay, now we're engaging in, I'm going to show you love from the White House because I like what you're doing. That feels collusive. That feels collusive. So when I heard about that meeting, I was like, okay, I can give her a pass on meeting with J6 people and the J6 committee and Benny, and go out, run out to Liz Cheney, become besties with her, become drinking buddies with her, where she's off in some saloon in Wyoming right now, crying her eyes out about the fact that her political career is over and how, it's not freaking Donald Trump, and sitting there sloshing her words as she's sitting there saying, Donald Trump ruined my life. I can't believe that, man. Or whatever stupidity she's doing in Wyoming. So you want to fly out there and talk to her and say, you should see all the records we got on Donald Trump, whatever lunacy she's spouting there. All right, I can understand that. You want to fly out to Illinois? Have a good cry with Adam Kinzinger? He's sitting there saying like, it's Donald Trump. It's terrible, terrible man, Donald Trump. And you want to sit there commiserating with him, giving him a hanky? So you can be sitting there blowing his nose about how terrible Donald Trump is, and you can, pick his brain as to who he thought was a compelling witness. Okay. Now it makes sense to me. But I don't understand why Kamala. Seriously, why would you be meeting with Kamala if not to be have your Fani get kissed by the vice president? And why is she kissing your Fani? Why is she kissing your Fani? Or your Wade? Why would she be kissing your Fani? Or blowing smoke up your Wade? I don't know. Insert whatever suggestive term you're looking for.
Aside a handful of other records we've been able to acquire, they've allowed us to piece together a timeline of events showing what was actually taking place behind the scenes. Now, mind you, it's not the complete picture, but what it shows is still rather wild. So let's go through it together. To start with, in regards to the RICO case against President Trump over in Georgia, one of the central questions that's been hanging in the air since the very beginning is to what extent were state-level prosecutors coordinating their efforts with the White House? Or in other words, how involved was the White House in prosecuting President Trump over...
We shadow banned on YouTube, but Fani Willis and Kamala Harris are both Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sisters from Howard University. Interesting. That still doesn't justify. Still doesn't make sense. Still doesn't make sense to me. Now,
in the state of Georgia. Now, of course, up until today, the official line from both the White House as well as from the Georgia state prosecutors has been that there was no coordination between the two. The White House, they claim that this is a state-level case that they have absolutely nothing to do with. However, over time, evidence has begun to creep up showing otherwise. For instance, some recent court documents, you can see them up on your screen, they show that Mr. Nathan Wade, the lead prosecutor in this Trump case, he met with White House staff, including the White House counsel, on multiple different occasions.
So he met with White House counsel. That's a little weird. Why are you meeting with White House counsel? See, White House counsel is not J6 people. They're lawyers for the White House. Why the heck are you meeting with White House counsel? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense at all. I don't understand that. I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with that a great deal. By the way, I missed a rant here that came in where Scorpid Black Dragon says, I recall McAfee telling Willis she could tell her side upon direct by the state. State declined to perform direct the next day. What can McAfee infer from that lack of questioning? He's unlikely to infer anything from that. Being realistic, he's very unlikely to infer anything from that. That's just reality. Being real with you. Big Poop says, my grandpa used to always say, you better not ever start a fight, but if you find yourself in a fight, you better finish it. And wise man indeed, your grandpa. See, I got your locals. I got your locals tip. I got it. I feel badly that by the way, on Thursday, I missed a whole bunch of, I'm so glad that I stumbled on this now. So I missed a whole bunch of rants that I had put aside from most of them from one individual. Oh, for the love of God, no. That's not good. That's a whole lot of not good. Give me a second here. Can I find it here? Oh, no, this is not good. I felt terrible that I missed a whole bunch of rants. And Big Poop also had sent a whole bunch of chats. And I had missed like everything. And I had put them aside and meant to come back to them. And I just want to apologize to those of you who ranted. There was one gentleman who ranted countless, like 6 times, and I was like, oh, I gotta come back to all this later, and I didn't, and I felt like such a jerk for it afterwards. And I just want to say, it wasn't you, Jacob. It wasn't Job. It was a guy who I hadn't seen very often. I don't remember. I'm drawing a blank now. I'm feeling old. Now I'm feeling old. You just made me feel old. Anyhow, I apologize if I ever miss anything. It's never my intention. It really isn't. But yeah, let me move forward here. So with that, if any of you in the chat can remember the guy's name who sent like 4 chats, 5 chats, 5 rants, or something like that.
In practical terms, this means that Fani Willis's lead prosecutor in this Trump RICO case, who also happened to be her romantic partner, was charging the taxpayers a cool $2,000 per meeting in order to talk to Joe Biden's White House lawyers about prosecuting Joe Biden's political opponent.
And there's no sense. It's very hard to come up with a justifiable reason that he would be talking to their attorneys. I mean, why? Why would he be talking to their attorneys? What insight, what facts could they see unless they're strategizing, like legal strategies, which that's like the most inappropriate people in the world for him to be strategizing with. Like that's very much the very last people he should be strategizing with is White House counsel for legal strategies. So, and it makes you question whether they talked to him about the timing of doing this work, and because he doesn't have much experience as a prosecutor, and to how to sort that timing in a way that's likely to be most impactful during election season. There's a lot that's very, very bothersome, because you can understand how if the objective was to help Biden defeat Trump in November, well, in that case, if you talk to people who might be experienced in this as litigators working for the White House, and they could sit here saying, okay, look, this is the heart and the meaty part of the season as to where we're expecting him to, like, you know, and let's speculate it. Let's try to figure out how long the trial would likely take. Let's figure out when, and you could start piecing out when is the most effective time to bring charges and to lay out step by step based on anticipated natural legal process delays in order to be as beneficial as possible to Biden. To me, aside from coming up making sure that Wade is not missing any legal theories to charge him with. So all of this stuff basically reeks of collusion between the White House and the state district attorney's office.
However, even though that seems shady on the surface, well, there was always plausible deniability. You could make the argument that even though Nathan Wade was meeting with the White House counsel, well, maybe the Biden administration itself was unaware of it. Perhaps they just did not know that it was happening.
Which that seems difficult to believe. The reason it seems difficult to believe is because you would think that White House counsel, that their duties, as far as they wouldn't spend 8 hours with me. If I said, hey, I want to have a meeting with you, like, you know, spitball with you some ideas as to, like, you know, different legal theories about topic X, they'd be like, oh, okay, we'll do that. And it's going to be on the president's dime. You see, that doesn't make any sense. They had to bill the White House for their time. And if they're on retainer, they had to account for their time. So that is not just, that's giving benefit of the doubt. So, and ultimately that has to come back to the White House. The White House is going to know where their White House counsel is spending their time. So that has to get White House approval. There's no way that doesn't get White House approval. So yeah, that's giving them benefit of the doubt in ways that don't make sense.
And after all, since this was a meeting between two lawyers, maybe there was some underlying legal related matter that needed to be resolved. So in theory, well, you could.
Okay, so let's think that through for a second. Underlying legal matters that need to be resolved. Well, the legal matters as far as charges against Trump, that would explain perhaps conversations with Jack Smith. And being like, look, if I'm going to be raising these charges, can I bring these charges while you're also, what charges are you bringing? What charges am I bringing? Is that going to be something that's not going to be, you know, that's going to be scrutinized by the court more because we have overlap here? You know, that's something that I could sort of understand a little bit. But White House counsel is not Jack Smith. White House counsel is his lawyers, is the president's lawyers. So a lot of people, like, you know, might look at conversations with Jack Smith and say, what the hell is going on here? Only because the link between Jack Smith and the White House seems to be ridiculously difficult to sever, despite him getting the name, you know, special prosecutor, whatever name Merrick Garland decided to confer upon Jack Smith. But, you know, supposedly there's a door blocking the DOJ from the White House, even though we all know that sounds like a joke. And then there's another door from the DOJ to Jack Smith. So he's meeting with Jack Smith. At least it has the veneer. While we all can see through it as being transparently, stupidly collusive, from the perspective of someone who is trying to look down from on high and doesn't have evidence of there being a connection, or doesn't recognize evidence of there being a connection, they'd be like, no, that's Jack Smith. That's not the DOJ. and it's not the president, so that's okay. And the reasons they would strategize as far as, ways that are healthy, as far as, bring prosecution in ways that are not going to be overlapping. It could ultimately be to Trump's benefit that he's not going to get charged twice and have to face charges in both the same charges in DC and in Georgia, or whatever stupid logic that some leftist attorney might throw at me. Right? If I was sitting in a debate with a leftist attorney, I'm already trying to predict what type of arguments are they likely to throw at me as far as the justification for this, and pretend that they're legit. There's some legitimacy to their claims when they remain blind to reality. Okay, fine. But even if you're saying that, what is White House counsel? I mean, what the hell does White House counsel have to do with Jack Smith? That's his attorneys. That's the White House's attorneys. Jack Smith is certainly not, and we keep hearing over and over again how he's not the White House's attorney. What the hell is happening here?
Deny any political motives behind those meetings between Nathan Wade and the White House lawyers. But that's a...
I'm not saying I support Jack Smith. No. Okay, first and foremost, I don't think he was legally appointed. I think he has no authority to act on behalf of the United States. No more authority to do that than you do. I think the fact that he's bringing charges and assembling a grand jury and all that other stuff, I think that was a violation of the Constitution, first and foremost. Second of all, I think that these charges are obviously an attempt to circumvent the fact that they can't bring him up on insurrection charges. I think these charges are transparently empty. So no, I think Jack Smith is a clown, and I think that he doesn't have any actual authority. He just has this apparent authority, which is not enough for him to actually be proceeding in the way that he is. And I think the charges that he managed to obtain indictments for are legal chicanery. Okay? I think they're stupid. And that the only reason he has any chance of conviction from Judge Chutkan, if in fact, whereas I think there should be definitely 100% presidential immunity from these charges and the RICO charges in Georgia. So I think that there should be presidential immunity, and that I'm hopeful that the court will recognize, the Supreme Court will recognize that, and throw both these cases in the trash, which is where they belong. But yeah, I'm just trying to look at this in a way that, even if I was sitting on the left, try to figure out what perspective would they give to try and give some sort of justification. And I'm running out of answers. So
a lot harder to do with this new piece of information, which was just revealed in the Georgia State Senate hearing. During that hearing, which for your reference took place 2 days ago, White House records were presented showing that just a few months before President Trump was indicted, a meeting took place at the White House between Fani Willis and Vice President Kamala Harris. Here's a short clip from that hearing showing these White House records being introduced to the Senate floor.
Before we get to that, there's a rumble rant here asking me, why would state lawyers meet with federal folks? So I came up with one possible justification, and the way they would frame it is, this is for Trump's benefit, so he's not hit with charges in both locations. So I think it's poppycock. I think it's a joke. But that would be some sort of justification they might try and come up with.
One of the other things I did was I did open records for the White House access, and we had records that Ms. Willis and the mayor of Atlanta were at meeting with the vice president.
Okay, and so this is the access history. How does that work? The White House keeps records of anybody that comes in and has any kind of official meeting, for sure.
Yes, and my understanding is it's highly regulated who can access the White House, and so you have to apply in person or apply ahead of time, and then they give you a time when you make the appointment, and they give you a time when you're allowed to be in and when you have to be out by, and they track you. And I mean, that makes sense. They don't want anybody lingering in the White House, but they keep that. And so they're called WAVE records, I believe is what they're called. And I'm not sure what that's an acronym for, but they're publicly available. They're open records.
And this record that's shown on the screen shows Fani Willis was a visitor with V. POTUS. I presume that's Vice President of the United States.
Yes, it was.
And what was the date of that back in, was that February sometime of 23?
February 28, 2023.
Is that before the indictment?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to point out here that Viva Fry, my good friend Viva Fry, made a phenomenal find on this very issue, which I'll just share with you right now, which is this clip right here.
To D.C. with Mr. Wade.
That's correct.
Personal or business?
That's correct.
Were you ever in D.C. at the same time as Mr. Wade?
I was not.
On personal or business?
No, me and Mr. Wade have not been to DC at the same time. However, since Mr. Wade has been on this case, he's been to DC. Since Mr. Wade has been on to this case, I've been to DC. What has not happened is we have not been in the District of Columbia at the same time. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about with what you asked me is if I've been to DC personally, because I got a lot of personal friends in that area. But I know that I have been to DC. I did an interview at Howard University. I went to DC for that. Seems like I've been to DC one other time. Oh, I went to DC for the Global Summit. Actually, yeah, those were two separate trips.
My next question is based on her opening the door, and therefore I'll just ask it, and Your Honor can decide whether or not it's appropriate. When you went to D.C., did you go to the White House?
Now, the reason that's inappropriate is because he's concerned the judge would deem it inappropriate is because remember I told you about that big box of improprieties that they threw out there. So in those improprieties that they threw out there, along with the romance element, one of the things in that magic box of all these different crazy improprieties was that there was this whole attempt to curry favor with the White House and these different meetings that the judge basically threw in the trash, said, I don't want to hear about that. So he was concerned that the judge would be like, I already said, I don't want to hear about that. And that's why he asked that question. And before anyone could say anything, Fani does this.
I did not go to the White House.
No. Well, apparently I'm going to get the answer anyhow. There you have it. Next question. Okay.
So there you go. I did not go to the White House. That's what she said under oath. I did not go to the White House when I went to D.C.
When you went to D.C., did you go to the White House?
I did not go to the White House.
No. Well,
appointment made.
Apparently I'm going to.
She was there on February 28, 2023, from 6:30 in the evening until midnight, 11:59 p.m. So there you go. Flat out perjury. Now, people have pointed out that the way it's not perjury is that this was technically in Kamala's home. So I was not at the White House. I was at Kamala's house, which she probably was eager to throw that out so she wouldn't be asked any further questions on it. It definitely was. So is that statement perjury? I would argue that she probably would successfully defend. If she was charged with perjury for this statement, a lot of you recognize that she's trying to be intentionally misleading while not saying a lie. And I'll tell you that right now, I agree 100%. She is definitely trying to be misleading while not telling a lie. At the same time, if someone brought perjury charges on her, against her for this statement based on these records, I don't think she would be convicted because it's technically not a lie. She didn't answer she didn't meet with the president or the vice president. She just said, I did not go to the White House. So while it's frustrating that seems to be an effective way to circumvent the truth from the stand, I do think that from a legal perspective, I have to recognize that if she was charged, she probably would not be convicted. That's technically not perjury, despite how gross she is as a human being and how patently and intentionally misleading she's being. So just thought I'd share that point with you. Getting back to this video.
Any further explanation of why Ms. Willis was meeting with the Vice President of the United States?
No.
And so, as you saw in that video, Ms. Ashley Merchant, who is the lawyer for one of Trump's co-defendants, she was able to file a public records request to the White House and obtain the log that she showed up on screen, showing that on February 28th of 2023, Fani Willis came to Washington, D.C. in order to meet with Kamala Harris. According to that record, the meeting took place somewhere in either the side lawn or the tent of the White House, and it was a long meeting. It was about 5.5 hours long, going from 6:30.
Which some of you were saying was on the side lawn. I saw that I think it came up that if you look at the logs, it actually implies that it was in her house. I don't know. The side lawn would sound more like it's perjurious, that you didn't go into the White House, but you went to the White House. So, yeah, that would make a little bit of distinction there on that question. I saw this comment here that from Kiwi saying it was Kiwi Green saying it was said the point was on the lawn. And like I said, that would make it closer to perjury. That's gonna be more of a borderline call. Saying the VP's house is on a military base. I don't know. By the way, if you're here, if you can like and subscribe and drop a comment if you're watching afterwards, certainly I'd be most obliged. I'm simply, again, when I'm doing this assessment, I'm trying to see, I want to see dead to rights. That doesn't mean I agree with anything that Fani Willis has done, said, or that I don't think that she's a slimy, scummy, terrible human being who's going after this for her own personal benefit on a myriad of levels. Personal benefit on a myriad of levels. I think she's a terrible, terrible, terrible human being. I'm simply saying, where do I have her? Boom! This makes no sense. So one example I found of that is this: when you tell me that they're meeting with White House counsel, that makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. There's no justification short of, there's no reasonable explanation that I can come up with. Can you come up with an explanation? Drop it on me if you have a reasonable explanation as to why they're meeting with White House counsel. That is very difficult to explain. The lack of perjury, you can see how if someone wants to try and give the benefit of the doubt to her, you can find a way to weasel around it that's technically not perjury. She didn't go into the White House or whatever. And I'd be like, God, I guess, the cockroach manages to avoid the mallet. Okay? That's basically what I'm seeing there. I'm trying to find places where, no, that cockroach is squished.
30 all the way up until nearly midnight. And the timing of this particular meeting is very important, which becomes quite evident when we look at a timeline of the events leading up to the actual RICO charges.
Wait a second. Are they Jews? I didn't even know that. That's very funny. Friends and family discount.
All the way back in February 11th of 2021. Basically,
so I like this timeline. I'm going to let him play his timeline here because I like this timeline that he does. So February 11th, 2021 is when the probe begins.
About a month after the events of January 6th, Fani Willis sent letters to the governor of Georgia, as well as Georgia's Secretary of State, telling them to preserve certain documents related to a matter of high priority that her office was investigating, meaning that the investigation into President Trump began as early as February of 2021. Now, for the first year, a lot of it was taking place completely out of the public eye, behind closed doors. However, on November 2nd of 2021, it appears that the investigation was taken to the next level, because on that date, Ms. Fani Willis appointed Mr. Nathan Wade to be the special counsel in that particular case.
He was hired on November 1st. He actually filed for divorce November 2nd, but he was hired on November 1st.
You then fast forward 2 months to January of 2022, and that was when Ms. Fani Willis impaneled a grand jury and she began forcing witnesses to give testimony. Now, the grand jury was quite active during the year, during 2022. They interviewed about 75 different witnesses. The Secretary of State had to testify before the grand jury. A number of Trump's lawyers were called to testify. Rudy Giuliani became a target of the investigation. Senator Lindsey Graham, he was forced to testify before the grand jury. Basically, they were quite busy. And amidst all this, it appears that semi-regular meetings were taking place between Fani Willis's team and the White House. According to billing records that were recently made public as a part of Nathan Wade's divorce scandal, well, on May 23rd of 2022, amidst the backdrop of the grand jury doing their thing, well, Mr. Nathan Wade had an 8-hour-long meeting with the White House counsel. Then you fast forward 6 months, and on November 15th of 2022, President Trump officially entered the 2024 presidential race. But here's where things get interesting, because 3 short days after President Trump officially announced his candidacy, Nathan Wade had another meeting at the White House. This meeting took place on November 18th, and it's not exactly clear who he met with, and we have no idea what was discussed during that meeting, but coincidentally, on that very same day, the U.S. Attorney General, he came out and he assigned Mr. Jack Smith to be the special counsel investigating President Trump in another case.
That is very hokey. That the DOJ, he comes and meets with the White House, and the DOJ is assigning Jack Smith to begin their probe all on November 18th. That's very weird. That's very, very weird. That's very, very weird.
the case that eventually became the January 6th case. That is, if nothing else, an amazing coincidence. Regardless, 2023 rolls around, and in January, the grand jury is dissolved because they've completed their work. Then on February 16th, Fani Willis released part of the...
Now that grand jury was formed all the way back a year earlier. I don't know what the heck, I don't know what takes a year from January 2022 to February 2023. That sounds crazy to me. That sounds crazy. I don't understand that. Is that the hokey woman? Is that the crazy woman? The one who's like, oh, we got so much on Trump. Oh, we got so much. He's going down. Who appeared on CNN? I think she was selling crystals to the anchor. And this one is good for your aura. Like, this crazy, crazy, crazy woman. Crazy. Woo.
Grand jury's report to the public, which said, among other things, that the grand jury recommended appropriate indictments for the crimes that were committed. However, interestingly, those indictments did not come for a while. Instead, what we now know is that 12 short days after releasing part of that grand jury report, Fani Willis herself went to Washington, D.C., and she met with Kamala Harris at the White House for about 5.5 hours. Now, what they talked about...
So this grand jury report, which comes out on the 16th, and then 12 days later is when she's meeting with Kamala Harris. No one knows about this, anything that's happening at this point. We don't know about this report, right? I mean, we haven't, at this point, no one's seen the report. No one knows anything about it. And all of a sudden, Kamala's granting a 5-hour interview to Fani Willis. That makes the timing of this seem really, really weird. So a week after she asked for the interview on the 24th and flies up there, right away granted this.
Is anyone's guess. The only thing we do know is that about 6 months after that meeting, President Trump, as well as 18 of his associates, were indicted under Georgia's anti-racketeering law. And so there you have it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. I have this I'm sorry. I'm very open with my chat. To me, a healthy chat is a very important thing. Very, very important thing. And a healthy chat basically means freedom of speech. So I tend to allow people in here who are might be hostile. They might be hostile. They might be jerks. They can be mean to me. They can be critical of me. They can be gaslighting all the time, right? Like this fine man, like, you know, this confused man over here. He's very hostile. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm going to allow him. It's freedom of speech. He has his opinions and he wants to come and watch the show. He's going to do what he's going to do. The 3 rules I have are no racism, no violent terms of speech. And I have those 2 because I'm like, yeah, that's just bringing the level of chat down. Okay. And no violent terms of service. Violent terms of service is going to, you know, jeopardize the chat for everyone. And the third thing that's jeopardizing the chat for everyone is no spamming. Don't allow spamming. And the reason I don't allow spamming, writing the same comment over and over and over again, is because if you spam, that just makes the chat worse. That just makes it like you think you own this place, and it just messes up the chat. So I'm cool with the banter back and forth. But when someone's a spammer, I basically say to myself, I can't have that. That's not fair to my chat. So when someone does that, I basically say, sorry, I gotta get rid of you. I gotta get rid of you. Because you're making the place a worse place to be. So bye. All right.
Have it. That is the full timeline of events, or at the very least, that's the full timeline of events we've been able to piece together based on currently publicly available data. For all we know, there might have been many, many, many more meetings that took place between Georgia state-level prosecutors and the White House. And for your reference, we here at the Epoch Times, we are currently in the process of submitting our own records request to the White House in order to see whether we can uncover more meetings that took place. If we find anything, I'll let you know right away.
Please do.
Also, in regards to the meetings that we already know
I hope
about,
when he's saying that, he is talking to me directly, saying, I'll call you, Joe. I'll let you know right away. Whenever I find, I'll be on the phone with you. I would appreciate that, Roman. Thank you.
Well, we here at the Epoch Times, we did reach out to both the office of Miss Fani Willis as well as the White House for comment, but for some reason, neither of them have gotten back to us as of yet. If they do, I will let you know.
I need to do that more. I need to like reach out to people. I need to like wave my little media thing and reach out for comment. Just reach out for comment. So. That's funny. That was funny.
And so that is thus far what we've been able to uncover. If you'd like to go deeper into this timeline of events, I'll throw my research notes down into the description box below this video for you to check out. And all I ask in return is that as you're making your way down there to the description box, take a short detour to smash those like and subscribe buttons so that this video.
There you go. There you go. That's his report on this. And I thank him for that report. I thank him for that. But I want to go a little deeper. He said, if you want to go deeper, I've links down below. And we're going to do that. We're going to go a little deeper here. Okay. So first, we're going to start here. And I am going to say, by the way, yeah, I'm not going to deny this. If you're just coming in here and trolling all the time and you're sufficiently original, I'll let you stay. I'll let you stay. But as soon as I catch you, breaking one of those rules, what can I do? I have to protect my chat. I gotta protect them. I was waiting for that, dude. I was waiting for him to screw up. I was like, oh, thank you. Now you spammed. Now you go. All right. Fani Willis' legal team met with Biden White House about Get Trump case on taxpayers' dime. All right. Let's check this out here. So this goes all the way back to January 9th, but let's see what they got. Evidence submitted in a motion by former Trump campaign official Michael Roman legal team suggests Fulton County District Attorney. Oh, all right. I don't want to get into that. I want to get more into, because I think this is going to bring to us more of the information. I went through the motion in its entirety when it first dropped back in January. But because we've spent so much of our recent time fixating exclusively on the romantic relationship, I really want to get into the money part of it. So the Willis used taxpayer money to meet with Biden White House about 2020 election case against Trump around the time he announced his 2024 presidential election. Corporate media hubbub about the recent filing largely centered on Willis's allegedly inappropriate romantic relationship. Okay, to get the Trump case. Documents allege Wade, who made motion, alleges was underqualified for the role, used some of the $654,000 taxpayer-funded legal fees he earned on the case against former President Donald Trump to fund lavish vacations for him and Willis, and that his actions amount to honest services fraud and possible federal racketeering. Now, honest services fraud is an interesting thing here. So honest services fraud, this really ties into his block billing, meaning his billing, to me as a lawyer, is something that really, really bugs me, because lawyers don't get away with this as a general rule. You can never, ever just put out there crazy blocks of time the way that his billing was issued to Fani Willis. Nobody would pay that. You have to be very, very detailed. Otherwise, no one's paying you, because you look like you're just a fraudster. You look like you're trying to rip off money from them, and especially when you're talking about doing it from the public and the oversight is being done by your girlfriend. That's insanity. That's insanity. So it's basically you're claiming honest services, but you're engaging in fraud in that claim for honest services. That I earned this money and I'm entitled to it, but you're full of crap. So you're actually doing some work, but it basically is bill inflation. So that's what honest services fraud is. Perhaps the most interesting evidence presented in the motion is that Willis paid Wade with taxpayer dollars for at least 2 formal meetings that they had in the Biden White House about the prosecution of Biden's #1 political opponent. Tucked away in one of the exhibits attached to the motion to dismiss and qualified with several invoices for the law offices of Nathan J. Wade, among the charges for prep meetings and discovery dating back to 2021 with 2 bills for 8-hour conferences with the Biden White House. He's always there for 8 hours. The first $2,000 meeting happened in presumably Athens, Georgia in May 2022. And that's over here, conference with White House. That I said makes no sense. That makes no sense. The second 2000 conference was held in Washington, D.C. on November 18th. Trump had just announced his 2024 candidacy. Here you have it, right here. November 18th, 8 hours into a DNC White House, with D.C. White House. Who the heck is he meeting there? Now, he's got his crap block billing. We don't know who this January 6th meeting, an attorney conference. I mean, this is the stupidest thing. This is the stupid January 6th meeting. Pay me $2,000 for this. Pay me $2,000 for this. Witness interview. Which witnesses? Who knows? $2,000. Give me $2,000. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. By the time her crew officially met with Biden's legal team in 2022, Willis was already more than a year into her politically charged persecution of Trump. Willis is an election integrity denier. I love that phrase. Who hinged the prosecution of the former president on the fake news that Trump asked the Georgia Secretary of State to find him 11,780 votes. I want you to know something. I love this paragraph. An election integrity denier. I love that phrase. It's true. It's true. You're an election integrity denier. And on the fake news that Trump asked the Georgia Secretary of State to find him 11,000, it is fake news. This is so well said. Willis technically possesses evidence that exonerates Georgia's alternate electors, but that hasn't stopped her from pursuing weak criminal charges against Trump and several allies for questioning election inconsistencies that surfaced in 2020. The contact between her and her legal team in the White House during key developmental stages of the case against Trump only seems to confirm that Democrats' lawfare is designed to hamper the Republicans' 2024 election chances. Well said. All right. So where are you guys at? Where are you guys at? Do you think that do you guys think that there's enough here? Do you think there's any justification here? Did I miss something? Is there something that I missed? Because to me, I got to tell you something. These meetings, this should be everywhere. This should be everywhere. This should be something that everyone should understand. You're sitting here telling me that this is a good faith prosecution when when your special prosecutor is billing? If he's billing the county, he's even saying, I need to get paid because I'm on the clock for going forward with this Georgia prosecution. And I have to, part of my Georgia prosecution is that I have to meet with White House counsel. That is, to me, inexcusable. Inexcusable. But I don't know. If you think I'm fake news, tell me. Tell me what your explanation is. I'd love to hear from you, King Ginger. I want to hear from someone who can basically explain it. To me, this sounds just unbelievable. I don't even understand it. I can't come up with any logic. There's no logic that explains why this is happening, other than something very illicit. There's no explanation. I can't come up with anything. I've tried. I've been sitting here racking my brain for the last several hours. Like, what possible thing could they be meeting for? I don't know. I'd love to hear some suggestion from someone that explains how he has billable time. Billable time. If he's not billing for it, so you could say, okay, you know what? Maybe they like him. They're fans of his. So if we saw evidence that when we see Fani meeting with Kamala, you want to try and find some excuse for that? You can say, oh, okay, you know what? Kamala likes the work that she's doing there. That's after the fact. I guess the grand jury's already met. I don't know. So she wants to, show her the White House and give her special treatment. Okay. Much of the work has been done already. You're meeting with White House counsel? Why are you? There's no reason. If they were meeting with the J6 committee, I would give a complete pass. I would say that could be an expeditious use of their time. It's expedient. You're going to a source that has invested a lot of time in this. This, to me, I'm sorry. There's no explanation I can come up with. I don't know. Try and give the benefit of the doubt every way possible to the Biden administration. And I'm sorry, I got nothing. You fail. Okay? This was clearly persecution. Clearly. That is being pushed along by the White House itself. This is corruption. This is collusion. This is, I need to find some desperate way to try and get rid of my political opponent. That is Banana Republic. That is what they do in Guatemala. That's what they do in Cuba. That's what they do in Russia. That is not what's supposed to happen here in America, where the White House figures is sitting there saying, I don't know how I can beat this guy in an election. So and by the way, those of you who are concerned about fraud, in the upcoming election, saying like, what are we going to do? We saw the fraud in 2020. What are we going to do in 2024? They're going to do fraud again. The fact that the Biden White House is so terrified of Trump should tell you that they don't think they can gin up enough fraud in the next election. It shows you their fear. They're tipping their hand, that they think that this situation is so disastrous for them that they don't think they can come up with enough fraud to keep him from winning in November. That's what it tells you. This should be your white pill if you're sitting here concerned about fraud in 2024. It should be your white pill, because if they weren't concerned about fraud in 2024, they wouldn't be going through such depths of shenanigans, and it would just be like, oh, what do we care? We got this in the bag anyway, right? If they actually felt they had the ability to run their elections the way Putin could run his elections, the way Xi can run his elections, that we know that the results are going to come out the way we want them to, they wouldn't be engaging in these shenanigans. That's your white pill right there. And you're sitting here and Dick, it's good to see you, brother. It's been a while. You say, why are they afraid? Maybe they know that, look, the stuff that we used last time, we're not going to be able to use that here in 2024. People are paying a lot more attention now. They're a lot more attuned to the different ways that we got very creative. So we're not going to be able to get away with it so easily in 2024. This is your white pill. Anyhow, that's what I got for you tonight. I think that's enough. I think I got enough. I think that's enough of a white pill to leave you all on. All right. And by the way, I don't think that's much of an exaggeration. I'm like 80 million. No, that's not possible. I don't think 70 million is possible. There's no way. Anyway, I thank you all for joining me. God willing, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a show on playback. You're going to find it's going to be free for everyone. It's a free for all. You'll get notifications about it on goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. But I am going to be doing a show tomorrow on playback. And who knows, maybe even a locals tomorrow also. And I definitely plan on coming back here tomorrow evening with my next show at that time. So I thank you all for joining me. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. It's now 3:24 in the morning because our clocks have all jumped forward here on the East Coast. So it's 3:24 in the morning. So that means it's time for me to skedaddle. Anyhow, I thank you all for joining me. I'll tell you, stay happy. No matter what, still don't eat the box. And as always, my friends, I say to you, thank you. Good night. Oh, you want to call me fake news? Okay, my brother, we're good. I was trying to find someone who can help them. Someone who can help them. But I thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Good night and Godspeed.